So I've had a couple of people call me in the last week and they were asking me about hard conversations they were going to have with bosses or executives about their compensation. And one thing that kept sticking out to me that I think these are high performing people. These are not people that are calling me and asking for basic advice. They're people that are already very successful and that uh, I think are very intelligent and that I even look up to as friends and as people in my network. And so as we talked through some of the dynamics at play, one of the things that kept coming back to me is the areas where I was able to contribute the most in trying to help were really around areas that were natural competencies for me. Everyone has different natural competencies, but one of the areas that comes fairly natural to me that sticks out with a lot of other people is the way you look at and think about money really impacts how you treat a certain scenario. And so, in talking to these high performing, very capable, super intelligent individuals and hearing some of their nerves around having a certain conversation around compensation, one of the things that stuck out to me is that they had a little bit of a belief that it was greedy or bad to be asking for more money. And the perspective I tried to share, and it's the perspective I have on money in general, is uh, greed is really when you're asking for more without delivering more, when your ask is not aligned to your value. So if you want to not be greedy and you don't want to come across as greedy and you're nervous about that and you have some belief in your head that by asking for more you're being greedy, I think if you recenter your perspective on starting from a position of value and not worrying about the ask. Don't think about so much about the ask. A lot of people spend a lot of time on what should I ask for, and should I ask for more money, and how much more money, and what will they feel if I ask them for that. And I think a lot of the nerves come from the fact that you don't really know what you're dealing with. If you start from a position of value and your first conversation starts asking, look, this is the value I think I'm creating. Do we have a shared opinion of the value I'm creating for the business? If not, here are the things I'm trying to deliver above and beyond. Am I focusing on the wrong things? What are the levers that I can pull that are going to move the business forward, that are going to drive real dollars and cents, that are going to make an impact, that will make you want to pay me more money? And so when you start with an intense focus on the value, no employer that I know of, or at least no employer I would ever work for, is going to be mad that you're focused on doing the right things in your career that are going to make a bigger difference for the business. If you start with that, then you naturally open the door to, okay, and when I execute on those things, what should I expect in terms of compensation to match that? Now, that's a very soft way of approaching it. It's not really the way I would approach it, but if you want to be very gentle, you can even ask. They're obviously going to anchor lower because their incentive is to pay you less. The better thing to do is to get a deep understanding of what are those levers that are being pulled, what vaults high performers in your organization into leadership roles, what correlates to higher pay. In some organizations the highest pay is not in a leadership role. So those are the kinds of things that if you get a better understanding and you can clearly articulate your career goals, where you're trying to get, and then get that feedback from your boss or from leadership about, well, these are the things it take to get there. That's going to make it very easy for you later to ask for more money because you're going to know that you've made a difference in an area that drove revenue or that really made a substantive impact on the business that they value. So you don't want to spend all your time working on things you think are important that actually don't move the needle, because then you go into a compensation discussion and they're like, well, you haven't really changed what you're delivering. Why would we pay you more? And so you don't get rewarded in most businesses for just, attitude. It's a great thing to have. But most businesses, when it comes down to a compensation discussion, are interested in rewarding the people that are moving the needle that they absolutely want to keep and retain. And so if your focus is on getting more money, do you understand how the efforts that you're making right now tie into that increased revenue for the business, how those efforts make you indispensable to the core operations of the business or to the business's competitive advantage? If you don't understand those things, then it's going to be really uncomfortable later to try to ask for more money, and it will come across as greedy because you won't have moved the needle. So Start from the position of value. Start with an intense focus on making sure you're aligned and understand how the efforts that you are spending are going to make an impact for the business in such a way that you will become more valuable to the business. And with that, don't ever go to your manager and say, hey, I want to make sure I'm moving the needle. How do I do that? That's a mediocre at best approach. The approach of a top performer is to come in and say, hey, I'm already executing on all my known job responsibilities as good as anyone at this company, if not better. And on top of that, in my spare time or, in addition to my normal responsibilities, I've identified these 2 or 3 things that I think will help me elevate my career to the next level, and I'm already working on those. Am I working on the right things? Your manager is going to give you so much better coaching in that scenario because they see the initiative, and it's easier for them to say, no, don't spend time on that, spend time on this. They're just more inclined to, because you don't sound like a victim or a beggar or someone that's just there asking for a free pass. You sound like a top performer. And your manager or leadership is going to want to help direct your efforts when they see you going out of your way to make extra effort to advance your career. So that's how you put yourself on the map to have those conversations. Is you don't just ask. People that just ask will just get whatever is convenient for the person. And maybe you find out the right things, maybe you don't. It's just you put yourself in such a position of weakness. So what a top performer is going to do is they're going to go out of their way to try to figure it out themselves first. And then they're going to go into the coaching conversation and share their goals, share their plan for attacking those goals, and then humbly ask for feedback on that plan to figure out if they're on the right track, if they've identified the right things, or if there's things that they haven't identified or that they should include in their plan to be able to drive the value they need to drive for the business. And that's the path. That's the strategy. Because once the value's there, you're indispensable and you're going to get the compensation to go with it. So, just a few thoughts around kind of how you make sure that what your belief about money is. First of all, that you don't believe money is evil or that asking for more money is greedy. You have a proper belief that it's appropriate to ask for more money, but only when you lead with value. And then you intensely focus on that value first before you have any conversation where you're asking for any money. And by doing that, you self-identify as a top performer. You get better attention and coaching from the people that matter in the organization, and you're able to then ask for commensurate compensation to that.